Mars and its secrets. Mars, so-called red planet or the bloody planet, the fourth torrential planet from the Sun, is actually one of the smallest planets, only second one after the Mercury in our solar system. However, this planet bears a lot of secrets. It's one of the planets which whole humanity looking for a long time, and it's the most popular planet in the recent media about exploring and potentially colonizing. Let's in this video talk about some secrets that Mars bears, how it's similar with our planet Earth, what are the particular features and why we can find on the Mars. We will see the data from recent research and rovercrafts that exploring intensively Mars for last several decades. To understand the particular features which we observe on the surface of the Mars, its conditions for potentially life which can be there or life which could come there and colonize it, in terms of us, people, we need to just briefly discuss the main properties of the Mars, which state it is on now, and how it's comparable with our planet, Earth. Since first telescopes were invented, people were observing the surface of the Mars already from the Earth. Back in the time, people observed particular lines on the surface of the Mars, changing ice caps, and were convinced that there must be some civilization already there. A lot of science fiction arose at that time, and people were sure that some canals were built on the Mars, this planet is occupied by Martians, and it has similar conditions that on the Earth. However, the exploration of this planet in the 20th century showed that it's not quite true. The Mars surface preserved more bare land. Heavily bombarded by numerous meteorites, the surface of the Mars more dead appearing than we would like to think. This planet was formed at the time when our planet formed and majority of the planets in our solar system, about 4.6 billion years ago. We know about the volcanic activity through the history of the Mars, especially in the beginning of its life, which actually released a lot of heat from the core and cooled down the planet quite quickly. And we know that atmospheric water was likely in a frozen condition, although it was preserved, but very fast it was swirled away by solar winds due to the very low atmospheric pressure and almost non-existent atmosphere there. Revisit my previous video about Mars colonization, where I talked specifically about atmosphere, why there's such a weak atmosphere on that planet. And eventually, nevertheless, there was a water on that planet, or still preserved only in a frozen state under the ground. The Mars today is the very dry and dusty planet, quite cold at times, and it's been like that since we people were observing it. Therefore, Mars appeared to be very similar to the Earth planet. However, there's a dramatic differences between us and the Mars. It's a similar terrestrial planet and has almost identical geographical features and a similar axial tilt, which resulted in the seasons on the Mars. However, it has basically no atmosphere, no liquid water, and wildly fluctuating temperatures on the surface. Although for us the Mars appeared to be a very red planet, we see the snow-capped looking poles, which mostly consist of dry or frozen carbon dioxide, and the water underneath. And actually, if you observe through the seasons of the Mars, these ice caps, they will be changing, similar like on our planet. In comparison to the Earth as well, Mars is about half the diameter of the Earth, and much less dense. That's why we have weaker gravity. In fact, the mass of the Mars, it's about 11% of Earth's one. But because there's no oceans of the Mars, it's just one land everywhere, it has the same amount of dry land as we have on the Earth. Mars is a bit further from the Sun than the Earth, about 228 million kilometers, which fluctuate, of course, depends on its movement along the ecliptical orbit. Because of that, it takes longer, about 687 Earth days to orbit the Sun, almost twice as long as for us to rotate around the Sun. And its orbit is the second most eccentric in the solar system after the Mercury. However, scientists believe that in the past, probably Mars have more rounded orbit and it's changed due to gravitational influence from Sun and other planets, particularly Jupiter, a very big planet. As we say, the tilt of the Mars is close to R1, 25.19 degrees, in comparison with 23.44 degrees for the Earth, and it's mean that we have seasons there. However, the seasons a little bit longer on the Mars due to its longer travel distance around the Sun. We observed 2 satellites orbiting around the Mars, and actually those satellites, it's the asteroids that have been trapped, or maybe material that have been ejected from its surface due to the impact and stay on its orbit. Therefore, there is 2 very small satellites, nothing in comparison with the Moon, Phobos and Deimos. For example, Phobos is rotating around the Mars on distance about 6,000 kilometers, very close to it. And it's very small, its radius only 11 kilometers. It's not circled like the Moon, it's very irregular of the shape, and it's actually have them impact craters on its surface. Deimos even smaller and more distant from the Mars, rotating around on a distance about 23.5 thousand kilometers away from its surface, and its radius about 6 kilometers, very small. These 2 satellites are small, although we know they're there. Scientists suggested maybe there are some other bodies that rotates around the Mars. They've been trapped similar by its gravity. Therefore, we can conclude that all these similarities and differences between the Mars and the Earth caused such a different condition there. So you can say Mars is maybe the future of the Earth. Scientists suggested this planet had the plate tectonic and active volcanism on it, like we do have right now on our planet. However, it's exhausted itself, and volcanoes we observe on its surface are dormant now. The location of the volcanoes suggested that plate tectonics actually took place in the past. And also the differences, for example, difference between northern and southern pole suggested different crust mantle there. Maybe because this planet is smaller and it's exhausted itself much faster than our Earth. For example, the core cooled down much faster. It's caused all these problems with magnetic field around it, loss of atmosphere, the water, very important for life, and as a result, faster loss of other minerals, high radiation on the surface, which resulted all in such a dead appearance for life right now. However, some recent researchers suggested maybe there's still some kind of form of life preserved in the ground, under the ground. Similar like in our Earth, we have so much microbial form of life within the crust of our Earth in the caves. Similar, we might find something leftovers on the Mars. However, we need better equipment that could climb into the caves on the Mars, which will go there in the future. Nevertheless, for life forms like animals and humans, Mars is not very convenient. The gravity, atmospheric pressure, radiation, and very low temperatures, all that will cause, if not immediate, but soon death on its surface. All these features end up in particular surface on the Mars, which we observe now better. Before, as I said, people observed only particular lines on the surface, but the moment when we start orbiting around the Mars, photographing it regularly, and now even walking on it in forms of rovers, special machines, of course not humans yet, it's revealed us a very interesting geological features on the Mars, which make us think more about the Mars like the Earth, or the Mars like the Earth in the future. High quality pictures and observation of surface of the Mars, which we can see 100%, not like we can see on our Earth. Earth is covered 75% with water, so majority of the Earth's surface we never seen in real life. But Mars, it's all exposed there, and when the caps on the poles are melting through the seasons, we can see more of the surface of that little red planet. Majority of the Mars surface covered with regolith, loose conglomerate of broken rocks, dirt and dust. And because there's not much atmosphere, the solar wind strips away molecules into the space. Therefore, about 95% carbon dioxide, 3% of nitrogen and 2% of argon, with other gases, right now kind of composition of the Mars atmosphere, remnants of this atmosphere. And in this very poor atmosphere, we observe ice clouds, mostly made of carbon dioxide. Let's talk about some geographical features on the surface of the Mars. The biggest one is that the Mars has increasingly different northern and southern hemisphere, as I said. Most of the northern hemisphere is lower in elevation than the southern one, up to 6 kilometers. It also has far fewer impact craters, so it's smoother and more uniform surface, explaining that the crust in the northern hemisphere appears to be much thinner than in the southern one. Therefore, we cannot explain exactly why there's such a difference. We can suggest that volcanic activity, tectonics, and impacts, it's the main processes that affected the surface of the Mars we see right now. The most striking features you can see on the Mars, that's the mountains, which are sleeping volcanoes or inactive volcanoes. We have two areas, Tharsis Bulge and the Elysium volcanic complexes, which contain several volcanoes grouped together. Tharsis Bulge covers about 25% of the planet's surface and lies 7 to 10 kilometers above it. And here we can find the Mons Olympus, a shield volcano. It's the largest mountain or volcano as well in the solar system. Mount Olympus is very large, and it's as high as 22 kilometers, which is more than 3 times higher than the highest mountain on our planet. You can maybe explain it that the gravity is not as strong there. It's only about 40% of the one we have on our planet, and it was easier for material to bulge and build up. It also can suggest much stronger internal forces back in the ancient times of activity on the Mars. As I said before, scientists suggested there was no plate tectonic on the Mars. However, very recent discoveries on its surface shows that there was plate tectonic. We see a lot of steep cliffs, flat walls, canyons, and we see the faults at work. And also we observe the Mars volcanoes are concentrated in 2 different areas. The large valley system, known as the Valles Marineris, is the deepest in the solar system as well. Take up a quarter of the planet's circumference. It is, in fact, a plate boundary as well. There is a horizontal movement along the plates. We know just about that fault system very well on the Mars so far. The scientists believe that the Mars tectonic system is much younger than on the Earth. We observe numerous impact craters and basins on the Mars southern hemisphere. For example, Hellas Basin is the largest, and it's about 1.8 kilometers in diameter. Scientists believe that it's old as 3.8 billion years, which is dated back to the period of heavy bombardment of the Mars and other planets, also our Earth and our solar system. And of course, the ice caps at the poles, which changing with the seasons, as I said. We observe 4 seasons on the Mars. They are just longer and of varied lengths. Temperatures can get as low as minus 143 degrees Celsius at the ice caps in the winters, and the ice beneath the surface freezes and melts depending on the temperature. We know that carbon dioxide, which observed on these ice caps, melting points much lower than for the water. So when the all carbon dioxide sublimated from the surface, we can observe the frozen water there. The atmospheric pressure on the Mars is much lower than the Earth as well, and it's so thin that there is very little to block the surface from the sun's heat. There are ice clouds, probably caused when the wind kick up dust, while one of the red planet's biggest weather features is dust storms, which can last up to months. We observe some water erosion features on the surface of the Mars. Real valleys is one of the valleys on the Mars that looks as they might have been carved out by the water movement. Many of these valleys contain grooves on the floors that may be rich in iron. We observe the sand dunes, made of regolith, a mix of soil, sand, dust and broken rocks, which drifted into dunes on Mars' surface. Scientists once thought that they were stationary, but observations have shown that the dunes actually move due to prevailing winds. And of course, every day we're receiving more high-resolution images from the Mars, and there's so much to study for geologists on that interesting planet. Maybe one day our Mars craft will go down into the craters or canyons and sample the rocks within from the slopes, and it will tell us more about geology, history and life on that planet. I hope in this short video you get some interesting information about the Mars. However, keep in mind not just the similarities to our planet and how it'll be interesting to visit it, but also the differences. Mars, the one planet which just started leaving the inhabited zone around our Sun, and the temperatures on this planet a little bit too low for us to strive like we do on our kind and beautiful Earth. However, it doesn't mean we shouldn't explore it, and the future century will be the Mars century in terms of exploration of other planets. Please subscribe and watch next videos about cosmos, our solar system, and of course about our own home, planet Earth.